Welcome to the big interview. I'm Rolfe Winkler. Storage may not sound like an exciting business, but in the internet and mobile age, when we're collecting more and more files in more and more places, there are a handful of private companies revolutionizing how that's done in order to really simplify our lives dramatically. One is Box, an 8-year-old company still run by its 28-year-old founder, Aaron Levie, who joins us. He's very outspoken, so we're very glad to have him. Aaron, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. We actually happen to think storage is quite exciting, but I can understand the general appeal and issues.
Well, let's talk about this. So people underestimate the importance of storage.
Right.
So storage actually can be pretty exciting. Last year, you guys were valued over $1 billion when you last raised money. Why is this an exciting business to be in?
Well, there's a couple things. So first of all, storage in general we think is exciting just because if you think about everything that the world runs on, you have to be able to store information. And now if you think about what cloud and what mobile and what just this sort of changing economy has created, you need to be able to get to information from anywhere. You need to be able to share with anyone, and you need to be able to collaborate kind of across any kind of boundary, whether it's a network boundary or a geographic boundary. And so at Box, we've built a very simple product that lets businesses store and share and access their data from anywhere.
You talk about the cloud. It's really a complicated place. With we have lots more devices.
Yep.
We have lots of ecosystems. Some people maybe they have an iPhone in their pocket, but they're on a PC at work.
Could even have a BlackBerry.
There you go. Right? They are in all these different ecosystems, and yet there are these companies like Box that are providing kind of the glue to make us be able to work across all of those ecosystems. Is that really kind of what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about 5, 10, 15 years ago, our sort of computing model was actually fairly straightforward. Basically, you would show up at work and you'd get a Windows computer, and all of the software that you would work with was basically going to either be powered by Microsoft or come from that Microsoft ecosystem, maybe from Oracle, maybe from SAP. And so our choice was very limited, and things were fairly homogeneous in terms of the different platforms that we were using. Fast forward to just a couple of years ago with things like the iPad and Android devices, all of a sudden in every single one of our businesses, whether it's a 5-person company or a 500,000-person company, the device landscape, the technology landscape in these organizations are vastly different than ever before. And because of that, and because of this sort of heterogeneity of all the different platforms that people need to work from and all of the different locations that you want to be able to share from, whether it's an airplane or a subway or a different country, we now need computing that can sit at the center of that and work agnostically across all of those platforms.
So basically, it's almost like you're creating an operating system, a multi-platform operating system to be able to share all of this various stuff that we're creating and putting in different places and then losing track of it.
I'd say in the best case scenario, that's sort of the big outcome of all of this, is that you have a sort of business operating system that you can work from anywhere and work with anyone on. So we're just one of the players in this space, but we think we provide an application that can work horizontally across all of these different kinds of systems.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned you're just one of the players in the space, and a lot of people, of course, have heard of your larger competitor, younger company, Dropbox. Now, they have...
We're familiar.
You are familiar.
I've heard of them.
They have 100 million users. I think you guys have about 14 million.
15, but yes.
15 million. That's a new number today. Have you released that?
We're actually talking about it this week.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so you heard it here first. What makes Box different?
Yeah, I mean, the big difference is just the difference in models. So we're very, very focused on the enterprise. 100% of our focus in our business and what we build technology for are focused on small, medium, large-sized businesses that want to be able to take their data to the cloud securely and be able to extend that information again to these different devices and different platforms. So whereas other companies in the consumer space certainly go after a lot of different kinds of value propositions, we are squarely focused on how do we build an application that can let businesses run faster, save them a tremendous amount of money, be able to share and collaborate again across kind of global boundaries. And so we just happen to be building a very different kind of product and thus platform because of that.
But why can't they use something like Dropbox? What makes Box better?
Yeah, so I would say two quick things. So I think the latest statistics that have been surveyed from large companies is about 80% of large enterprises are now having sort of a bring your own device to work model, something in that kind of range. It's about 3/4 of enterprises. And what's so amazing is that because you can now bring in any kind of device, thus the device becomes variable and to some extent disposable. Like if I lose this, I need to make sure that no data is on the device anymore. That means that the most important part of our business doesn't become the device or the hardware. It actually becomes the data and the information that you're using and you're working with. So more than ever before, the security of that data, the management of that data, and the control of that data becomes very important. At the same time, you're bringing up a very important trend, which is sort of the consumerization of these services, where you need technology that's going to be incredibly simple and easy to use. So at Box, what we focus on is how do we build really, really simple and elegant end user technology, but that can be secure enough and deployed at scale in a large enterprise, whether that enterprise is a Dow Jones or a Procter & Gamble or an EA or a AAA, all of which are sort of Box customers. Our focus is how do we create that enterprise layer that an enterprise can manage and secure while still giving end users the kind of value and experience that they would expect from a consumer sort of oriented tool.
Let's talk a little bit about the consumerization
Sure.
of IT, as you call it, and in particular one company.
Right.
So BlackBerry. Do you so obviously they're having a lot of trouble as people have brought their iPhones to work, basically pushed the BlackBerry away from the enterprise. And my question for you is, BlackBerry 10 just came out.
Yep.
Can BlackBerry survive as an enterprise-focused company?
So I have had some time to play with it. We were kind of a launch partner with them, so we're embedded in a lot of the phones. So we're quite, certainly very excited by what they've done from a hardware innovation standpoint, from a software innovation standpoint. So I think if you look at that in isolation, if you look at that in a vacuum, it's actually a very, very high quality device and phone and user experience.
But is that enough?
So the challenge in this space is the network effects, and this is what any kind of player runs into. We actually run into it in our own business, where you have to build an ecosystem of developers that build on top of your platform. And in the mobile world, the network effects are even more sort of important and sort of acute in terms of if you don't pay attention to them, what happens. So if you think about it, you have iOS and Android, which are certainly the two front runners. You have Windows 8 and sort of the Windows Phone experience that is really catching up, and Microsoft is going to fund that very heavily to make sure it's a dominant platform. And so it does create this sort of precarious position where what does the sort of fourth player look like, and can they become the third player, for instance? Can they sort of fight it out with Microsoft to make that happen? I have some personal opinions about what BlackBerry could have done from a software perspective, whether it would be leveraging Android or whatnot to make sure that they could still get those applications. But from our view is enterprises are going to still need very elegant devices that they're going to enable their employees to have. Not everything will be bring your own device to work, and so if there can be technologies that match the kind of services that an enterprise need, I think those will get purchased. But I do think it's a challenging position. We're rooting for them, if only because we think that having lots of innovation in the space is very important. But I would say that the network effect piece is very difficult, and I maybe would have made some different decisions on the operating system side.
Okay. Which would have been what?
Android.
You think you would have made you would have had BlackBerry go with Android?
I think that it's I think that it is these spaces are heavily driven by how many developers that you can get on your platform and how many applications are on their platform. And it's not because the funny thing is that we have this situation where we sort of compare the top line statistic numbers of these platforms. Like there's 700,000 apps on iOS, and there's 400,000 apps on Android, or 1 million apps on Android, and somehow we think of that as the sort of fight. It turns out that doesn't really matter, because there's only you probably only use 20 apps. I only actually use like 5 or 8. So it doesn't really matter that there's so many. What matters is that the ecosystem has enough momentum where those next great apps will be built on that platform. And so you have to have that kind of critical mass to make that happen. And so I think that the operating system piece is actually pretty important. But again, I mean, having played with the BlackBerry 10 device and operating system, they've done a great job on both of those counts. So the big thing will be, can they rally the developers and can they really get the customer demand? And we're rooting for them.
The last question before we lose you. So you mentioned you guys have 15 million users. How many of them pay?
So the way that we do it is it's a freemium business model. So we don't really talk about the specifics of the total number of paying customers. We have about 150,000 businesses that actively use the product, and so that 15 million is actually represented in that 150,000. But I'd say we're very happy about the business model because it's all driven by enterprises that want to pay for more security, more scalability, more users in the organization. So we have some companies that have 3 employees that they pay for on Box, and we have some companies that pay for tens of thousands of employees to be on Box.
Okay, Aaron Levie
from
Box. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you.
Appreciate
Thanks a lot.
it.